Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the North Road Podcast. Kerry Williams here, Director of Research, Portfolio Manager with North Road Investment Council. Today I'm bringing you an interview that is really special to me for two reasons. One, it's with Dr. Barry Kaufman, and Scott is a pretty big deal. He is amongst the top 1% of most cited scientists in the world. He's had more than 80 scientific publications on intelligence, intuition, creativity. His research looks at everything from giftedness to personality traits, but it focuses on human potential and how do we reach that. He went to Yale, he went to Cambridge, he went to Carnegie Mellon. He's even hosted a course with Oprah around gratitude. So it was really special to have him here and do an interview, at least online, with me. But maybe more importantly for me, it's very personal. During COVID, like many of us, I was really struggling and trying to figure out how I manage my career and where's my career going to go post-COVID. How do I help my elementary age kids while they're studying at home? How do I help my wife and support her in her career? How do I manage my home, my yard, all those things? And I decided to take a course because I had heard Scott's podcast, the Psychology Podcast, which he ran for about 10 years and had more than 30 million downloads. It was very popular, and he promoted a course he was putting on during COVID called Transcend, which looked at his research around human potential. And I got to have an hour with him one-on-one, and literally in that hour, Scott changed my life. He listened to what I had to say and what I was struggling with, and he told me exactly what I needed to hear. And in this interview, we touch on that a little bit later, so I encourage you to listen to the whole thing. But I think the most important part of what I wanted to convey is I wanted to take his research around human potential and flourishing and connect it to money. In our practice, we know that money is not just math. It's very emotional. And we talk about things like money scripts, the beliefs we pick up as kids that affect how we connect to money as adults. We talk about how do parents pass on scripts to their kids, and how do we pass on maybe inheritances without ruining our kids or wrecking their potential to self-actualize into who they need to become? I hope you enjoy this conversation and would love your feedback. If you get to the end and you found it valuable, I'd like you to consider two things. One, I think you should check out Scott's course that he's launching in July. It's called The Science of Living Well. We're not getting paid to promote it. It's just something that I think will be valuable. If you're at a place where you're having a transition in your life or you're wondering what might be next, I think you may find it valuable. You can find it on his website, and there's an early bird special until the end of June. Sunday, June 28th is the last day for that. Second, it takes a lot of work to put on this kind of content and these kind of interviews. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, I would love it if you would. That will notify you next time we put out great content and helps us get great guests like Scott. In addition, if you want more than just our content, you want to see the things we're reading and hearing about from other companies and in the investment space or in the psychology space or even the travel space, our monthly newsletter that we call Weekend Reading pulls all those articles together that we've read that we think are worth seeing. You can find that on our website. Without further ado, here is Dr. Barry Kaufman. It is an absolute pleasure of mine to welcome Dr. Barry Kaufman to the North Road Podcast. Scott, welcome to the North Road. How are you doing?
Thanks, Carrie. It's my pleasure and honor to be there. I'm doing all right.
Awesome. Where do we find you today?
I'm in Sherman Oaks, Los Angeles.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I know you don't have a ton of time to spend with us, so I want to hop right in and start talking about the course that you are putting together that folks can sign up for in the next couple of weeks, as well as your research. And I really want to connect it to money and wealth because that's kind of our specialty. And so to start us off, Scott, I guess, can you just touch on the progression of your research? I know that you've done a lot of research and it's progressed over the years. Is there a theme that sort of connects everything as it relates to your research?
Certainly human potential, or the potential, unrealized potential, realized, becoming realized. I started studying intelligence, and my career started studying what is IQ, what is what are forms of intelligence that go beyond IQ, which led me into imagination. and I spent
Mm.
years as a scientific director of the Imagination Institute at University of Pennsylvania, doing work on what happens to the brain when creators create, and what can we do to unlock creative potential. And then I got into well-being uh, and self-actualization research. I discovered the writings of Abraham Maslow, but all of it kind of leads up to how can we self-actualize, and how can we recognize that in ourselves, and how can we create structures like in education, and business, so others can recognize it in us.
Awesome. And the course that I took with you during COVID now, so that's, I mean, let's say 5 years ago, that was based on your book Transcend and about your work around Maslow. One of the terms that you used, self-actualization, I think some folks may not be familiar with. Do you have a definition for what that looks like, or do you want to touch on Maslow's research and how you've adapted that? Fill us in on self-actualization.
It's well, Maslow would view it as being fully human, and becoming all that you're capable of becoming. I
Hmm.
think that he actually preferred the phrase fully human than self-actualization. What are all the what does it mean to be, to feel fully alive, to feel like we're vital and living a meaningful life, that's contributing something of value to this world. And um, these are the issues that the humanistic psychologists grappled with, because they were really fighting against ideas such as behaviorism, which is like our inner life doesn't matter, it's only input and outputs, and Freudian ideas
Mm.
that all we are is our most base instincts. But yeah, I wanted to show there's a higher nature to humans.
Do you find that right now in this moment, this idea of kind of self-optimization culture that's happening, this maxing culture, are they trying to tap into this self-actualization? Do you feel that that's helping or hindering folks right now?
And I think it's nice when there's a self-actualization culture, when you realize that, when you recognize in your company that very different kinds of minds can each bring its own unique situation,
Mm.
contribution to the table. I think that's actually a wonderful thing. I'd love to see schools be more centered around self-actualization, than standardization. Whenever we move more towards appreciating the unique uh, constellation of traits within a person, and character strengths and talents and forms and creative contribution, the better, in my view.
Do you feel that, or have you looked at how money connects to this? In our world, we talk a lot about money as a tool for achieving goals, but how does that connect to kind of your research around human potential and self-actualization?
Your relationship to money is very important in life. I think that's probably an under discussed contributor to self actualization. Not the money itself, but your relationship to money. Not being fearful of going after what you want, not being bashful to even acknowledge that you would like money. Um, I'm not bashful to admit that I would like money, you know. Um, but having a relationship to it where it doesn't become your predominant motivation, and
Hmm.
doesn't overtake your sense of self. I think sometimes people get so obsessed with getting more money, and buying nicer things, that they can lose sight of the fact that the development of the self is still on the table as something that's important, and your self can develop in ways that can be really unhealthy when you get too preoccupied with that. But um, money itself is really helpful to self-actualizing. You think about a lot of people that don't have any opportunities to self-actualize whatsoever because of their economic hardships, and the worst in the saddest case, homeless people, don't really we don't really think of homeless people as having self-actualizing potential. We would just walk over them on the street. I think that's a shame.
Yeah, for sure. Are you familiar with Brad Klotz's research on money scripts?
I can't say I am. Please educate me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Brad developed in this research around money scripts with the idea that financial behavior is often driven by these unconscious scripts that we may have picked up or formed early in life, and one of those might be, as an example, money is evil, as an example. And so then, how does that uh, connect to how we live our lives as adults? And so his money scripts research and sort of the quizzing around that and the ability to connect our own behavior and beliefs to money scripts can really affect how folks approach, I think, their ability to self-actualize. So
Nice.
one of the questions I was thinking about as I was preparing for our chat was around how do beliefs affect our self-actualization potential, and do they create a ceiling, or is there opportunity to break through that, or to transcend, as you might say from your book? Tell me a little bit about what you think as far as how beliefs affect our ability to self-actualize.
Yeah. So self-belief is a huge one.
Mm.
And the, you have to believe in your higher potential, even if it's not evident that that it exists. You have to kind of take a bet on yourself. And and a lot of people are not going to take that bet on you first. And so it's tricky because you're betting on yourself in a way that you're kind of like becoming a self-investor, right? Of your
Mm.
potential. And um and who better to be an investor of your potential than you? Because you can make all the choices that can try to move you in that direction on a daily basis, and you can try to hold yourself accountable to your personal shareholders. I don't know. I'm really going all out on this, but this metaphor.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks.
One
Just
of the things
drop
I
it.
find in our practice, sorry, I cut you off there. I was going to say one of the things I find in our practice is that these money scripts are really hard to change. Often, as an example, our clients have often done quite well in their life. They're quite wealthy, and many of our clients have a hard time moving from a saving mentality to a spending mentality when they get to retirement. And I would say it almost becomes an identity challenge in a way. And that money script is so strong that they are someone who is a saver. And when we get into retirement and no longer have a paycheck, we have to become a spender. And we often find ourselves telling our clients, I want you to spend more money. I want you to figure out how to use money as a tool for joy in your life or someone else's. Through your research and your experience, do you have any advice for advisors who are trying to help folks through these kind of challenges where they have some sort of barrier that's holding them back? I use money because that's what I talk about every day, but feel free to bring in any sort of instance here.
Any advice for what exactly?
So I would say for advisors, like financial advisors like myself, like if I have a challenge helping somebody break through some sort of ceiling or barrier in their own self-actualization, what has worked for you in the past as you've worked with folks or talked to folks around that kind of stuff?
I've developed this whole self-actualization coaching program, and what we do, and this is the whole point of the coaches who get certified by us, is to help
Mm,
clients with this issue. And there's just so many different parts to this. There's the part that has to do with becoming a good chooser, becoming a good chooser of what's best for your own potential, and getting in touch with that. There's um, the element of it, which is getting very clear what you want your values to be and making that conscious
mm,
decision and learning how to regulate your emotions in ways where you act in line with your values, even if you don't feel like it, even if um, your body is resisting, like going to the gym or not eating that food that you really desperately want to eat. But getting in touch with those higher values is a really big part of the story as well. And I'm a big fan of the ACT approach. Um, what you ask me is just such a broad question, that you have to break it down into its little pieces, and then somehow all these things get integrated into the larger whole that is your self-actualizing self, because we don't just have one self.
Mm.
We all have multiple personalities inside of us, and the question is, how can you be in the right mind at the right time?
Yeah, that's
As
really
my
interesting.
friend
One of the things I've
Jim Fadiman phrased it that way in his beautiful book on the multiplicity of selves. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that my wife and I've talked about with our kids is the idea of helping them recognize the context in which they are yeah, operating in the moment. So they can, the joke we use a lot is if you take inappropriate conversations that happen at home in a joking way and take them into the wrong context, we can't help you. And I think it's a bit of that idea that you've got multiple selves, and making sure you're making decisions for the right self in the right moment is part of the training and the learning that comes
Love
into
that.
this, as you mentioned.
I love that. That's so good. Is your podcast
Yeah.
called North Road?
Well, we put it under our North Road Investment Council. That's the name of our firm, and we've been doing sessions on interviews or our own content for a while, and we just never changed it. But I like the idea of being on the North Road together in our podcast, so I like to refer to
It's
it as the
great.
North Road.
It's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so great to see you. I know in the intro to this, I'm going to
Likewise.
tell folks a bit about our background, but one of the things when we had an opportunity to chat, and you had a huge impact on my life a few years ago, this
Oh,
was a lot around how do I balance these trade offs in my life? And one of the trade offs I was trying to figure out was my ambition at work and my
yeah.
desire to be a great husband and a good father. And after about an hour, you just said, "Hey, Carrie, the one thing in this moment that no one else can do but you is be a great dad." And that was a huge moment for me because it was somebody saying something totally obvious and at the same time giving me permission to really focus on the one thing that I could be great at that nobody else could be, which I think is really important in your research and your courses. Um,
Yeah.
all of that to say, bit of preamble to my next question. One of the things that I hear a lot from clients who are wealthy is they're concerned about the inheritance they're going to pass on
Oh.
actually being a hindrance to their kids creating self-actualization. Do you have any thoughts on wealth and even beyond that? I would say, having a fortunate life
Mm.
being a
A
hindrance to
hindrance.
self-actualizing.
It's funny. Sometimes there's some paradoxes there. Like my friend David Epstein has this book out on the power of constraints on
Yeah.
creativity and on your life. Sometimes having narrower options can actually be the way forward. If you pass down too much wealth to your children, there's this fear that they'll get complacent and not feel a need to seek out what their major sources of self-actualization are. But I actually like it how you put it. I like how you put it when you talk about having a rich life, a rich life equation, right? Don't you talk about that? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's what you want to ultimately pass down to your children, is you want to give them a rich life, and money is one part of that. But I think really being clear what your wish is for your children, and tell them that, what your wish is, that they have a rich life, and that a rich life is far more than money. And I think the best you can do is instill the values. You don't have to like withhold the money from your children. Like there are children who have the money withholded and can still grow up to become assholes, right? So it's not, you can't predict. It can go either way, you know? The most important thing to do is to instill your values to them, right? And make clear, if they are inheriting wealth, that your wish for them is that they use this wealth to build a rich life, which involves a life of meaning and generosity, you know, to others. And I think that's the best thing you can do, because you really don't know how things are going to turn out one way or another. It really could go either way.
Yeah, and there's so many things that could affect which way it goes that are out of the control of parents, but maybe form in my life anyway, and one of the things I suggest is this idea of the rich life equation, which is the formalization
Yeah.
of a handful of values. And I have to tell you that it can be really hard. The exercises I've seen around formalizing values is, get a list of 25 values and then pick the ones that are most important to you. And I look at the list whenever I've done that exercise and I've said, I want all of these. But by not excluding, to your point about David Epstein's book around constraints, by not excluding many of them, you make it so that there aren't any that really stand out. So in our life, what we did, my
Mm.
wife and I, is we just created the rich life equation around 5 values. So for us, we said it was strong bodies, growing brains, healthy
Mm.
relationships, vibrant communities, and fun. And we just told our kids those are the 5 things. And if you want to spend money on those things, it's going to be hard for us to say no. And if you want to spend money on other things, we're probably going to say no. And so, choose accordingly.
I love
And
it.
it's been, I think, pretty helpful. But I don't know. It was a hard exercise. I don't know if you have any resources or any thoughts around how do you formalize and explain values across generations, but I'd be interested to hear about anything you can add there.
It's the same generation after generation, which is modeling good values.
Mm,
It's not rocket science. Um,
yeah.
be,
More,
be what you want others to become.
yeah. Kids are always watching, as one of my friends said.
They're watching you when you don't know they're watching you. So, live, be, even in the moments when you don't know they're watching, is what I would say is that those are the most important moments.
Hmm. Scott, tell us a little bit about the course that's coming up, The Science of Living Well. I know you taught it for many years at Columbia, and now you're making it available online.
Man, yeah.
And it's going to be, is it synchronous, asynchronous? How are you going to run this course? And tell us a bit about it.
I am so excited about this class. I have taught this at Columbia and a version of it at University of Pennsylvania before that. And I wanted to bring it to the masses and make it affordable. These students are paying how much money for the education? Um, and it's an 8-week class, and we've covering all the topics. Having to condense some topics into one, from purpose to, but we built it from the ground up, from all these things like layer on each other brick by brick as you build the sailboat, right? So you have like your safety needs, and you have your connection needs, you have your purpose needs. Um, and all these things somehow have to be integrated into a coherent whole sailboat that is moving towards your desired port that you want to sail to, even knowing that the waves could come crashing down at any time. And who knows, what the future is going to hold. And yet we still have to move in our most desired direction, despite all that. So this is such a time of uncertainty. I think is a good time to have the class.
Mm,
I think there's a lot of people that would really benefit from this class, and I really mean that. And yeah, I hope some of y'all join me.
yeah, we'll definitely put up some information on how folks can find it and sign up for it for sure.
Thanks, Carrie. If
Um,
you get a large enough group of people who watch you interested, I'll give a bulk group discount or something.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds great.
yeah.
Um, Tell us a little bit, Scott, what the experience was like for the students you were providing this class to. Did you find that I assume most folks that you taught were in their 20s ish or in their late teens. Did you find this was very profound for them? Did you find this was a challenge? Did you find it was boring? How does your experience with the students connect to what folks might experience on their own, where probably it's going to be a broad range of ages and demographics?
Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, that's okay. Tell us about your experience teaching this to students,
The
the
college
Science of
student?
Living Well course, and how it might relate to folks who are not students in that demographic.
Yeah, college students are great to teach, and because they have their whole life ahead of them. They don't know what they're purpose is yet, and they're still discovering and finding out and getting them out of their comfort zone is important. But I think teaching adults is probably even more important in a lot of ways because we can get very complacent. We get
Mm,
to certain stages of our lives where we think our best potential has been used up already. We forget who we are sometimes. We forget what our values are. We forget sometimes we need to go through these seasons where we reconnect with the deepest part of our soul. And you know, I think it's a different flavor when I do it when I teach adults than when I teach college students. Definitely a different flavor, but I find it a lot of fun teaching adults because there's a greater maturity there of questions of people who are reflecting on the rich experiences they've already had in their lives and trying to make sense of how to integrate that um, where they've been so that they can still become who they want to become. And I think far too often we get to ages in our lives where we give up on becoming what we always wanted to become. And I think it's never
mm.
too late. I'm a big fan of the concept of late blooming. I think I'm constantly late blooming and everything.
Thank goodness, too, right? Life would be so boring as we got older if we didn't have things to
Yeah,
grow into.
it's true.
Yeah, I saw a headline the other day, and I don't know how accurate this is, but it said that the fastest growing entrepreneurial demographic is folks in their 70s.
Oh, I love that. And I wonder, 40 years from now, what our lifespan will be. But I suspect
Interesting.
it'll be over 100.
Yeah, and what do we do for those years? You can't be retired for 40 years and do nothing. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Um,
Yeah.
and I think with AI, it's gonna shift. It's gonna shift our sense of self and our value to the world as well.
Yeah. You did your undergrad in technology and psychology, that connection. Is that accurate?
It is. How do you know that?
Oh, I'm good at this research thing, Scott. I'm a director of research if you didn't know.
I love it. Yeah, I have a degree in human computer interaction from Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cognitive science degree. But I am getting increasingly interested in the connection between the neuroscience, consciousness, and technology. And actually, working on a new project I'm excited to launch that's about the intersection of those three.
Oh, cool. Well, that was going to
Yeah.
be my question next was about how you're feeling about, what you studied many years ago in your undergrad and the explosion of AI in the last few years. Is this, for someone who's a humanistic psychologist, is this a good thing? Is it a challenging thing? Many folks are feeling, I would say, apprehensive about where this is going to head to. How do you feel with your background?
Well, mixed feelings that I feel like everyone should
Mm,
have in this space. There's a lot of promise and there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of promise for good and a lot of promise for it to be co-opted by dark triad personalities to manipulate us. So that's
yeah.
why we need more light triad leadership. This is something I'm trying to integrate into my research. You can Google it. Light triad leadership, Scott Barry Kaufman. It's my counterpoint to the dark triad, and there's a lot of people with Machiavellian, narcissistic, psychopathic personalities who are unfortunately in control of the technology right now. And that's really concerning for sure. But I think the technology itself is exciting and offers a lot of promise for us to express ourselves in ways that we've always had trouble expressing ourselves. I see a lot of people in the autism spectrum who have always had so much
Mm,
difficulty explaining to others the contents of their mind with AI helping them articulate things they've never been able to articulate before. When we view AI as a tool for self-actualization and human expression, I think that's great. When we view AI as a replacement for humans, then I go cut, cut, cut.
Let's retake that one. Right? Like cut. Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, I mean, of course, in our practice, we're using the tools where it makes sense. We're heavily regulated, so there's only so many things we can do, and only so many things that we're comfortable doing with it. But for sure, it's making our practice stronger and giving us the ability to be honest, to to focus on our client interactions more and our
Mm.
conversations more, and the admin side, the stuff that has to get done but isn't very fun for me. We're using AI way more to help with that kind of stuff. So our clients, I think everyone is aware that we're using note takers to take notes and to make sure we're doing our administrative tasks. But I think to your point, it's really helping us focus a lot more on the human side and less on the administration side.
That's right, and I have this book coming out next month that I edited, which has 26 of the leading business thinkers of our generation in there. It's called "Leading for Tomorrow: Unlocking Human
Mm,
Potential in an Era of Continuous Change and Endless Possibility." And these are just common themes amongst all the contributors, which is this really is a time where there's a lot of great possibility, but we don't want to lose the human elements of leadership. Like trust is going to become more important than ever. Trust in our leaders, um, as efficiency becomes the default and the thing that we don't need humans for anymore. What we'll need is creativity, and human ingenuity. AI ingenuity still has a flavor to it right now. We'll see what that looks like, but there's a lot of AI schlop.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm sure it's possible to create things that feel non-AI from AI, but when I read something that I've generated, it definitely feels like it's from AI. There is not the human element to it yet, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Scott, of the things that you talk about in the science of living well in the course, is there anything that you personally find that you struggle with implementing in your own life? Where I'm headed with this is the cobbler's kid's shoes metaphor, right? Where when you are the cobbler, your kids never have any shoes. So for you, as the professor of this
Yeah.
area, is there something that you find for yourself that is really challenging to implement in your life?
Well, I have trouble with organization and
Mm,
being able to. I describe ADHD like this. It's like a radio dial where you have all the stations coming in and you have trouble deciding which station to choose. But once you choose the station, your focus is excellent. So
mm,
I think we have ADHD all wrong. I don't think it's a deficit of attention. I think it's just an issue with choosing the radio station. So for me personally, I can get in hyperflow all day long when I choose the thing, but I also get really uh, uh I find everything alluring.
yeah, yeah, I can
I
imagine.
I'm full of ideas and full of wanting to live a fully alive life.
Yeah, I can see it in your research. It spans a huge breadth of different ideas and areas and themes. I know the human potential is the foundation, but
Yeah.
for sure, everything from from giftedness or that lack thereof, so to
Yeah.
speak, or all the way up to
Yeah.
Maslow and everything in between.
It's true. Yeah,
Yeah, how do
definitely.
you pick new ideas to work on when you have so many?
Well, they just come to me, like in the shower or like, yeah, I just like it just hits me. I'm like, oh, and I sit down like this is the article I have to write today. That's why you really have to be open to inspiration. I've always argued that. I've never been a here's my to-do list, I have to get done today kind of guy. That's
Mm,
not my personality.
yeah, have you heard
Thankfully,
that ADHD is the superpower of entrepreneurs? Have you heard that statement?
no, I'm not surprised. I also think
Yeah.
dyslexia is. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. There does seem to be Richard Branson and a few others that are quite famous for dyslexia as well as entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you see when you teach people around the science of living well and the things that are in this course? What do you see as the most common thing that most folks struggle with? Is there something that's very common or is it entirely individual?
Well, I mean, a lot of these basic needs are things that everyone is struggling with over and over again. The need to the feeling like, oh, where do I belong in this world? Um, who who do I care if they like me versus who do I not care if they like me?
Mm,
You have to make these choices in your life about, are you okay putting out a bold idea that gets you hate from this segment of the world, but can you deal with that? Are you, how much are you going to put yourself out there? And probably the biggest thing in all my self-actualization coaching sessions with clients is, um, you know, this fear of dying with unrealized potential. I mean, that's just such a
mm,
common fear, that I get over and over again. And I have a lot of mostly middle-aged people who are my clients, and that's their biggest fear. And they're like, should I change careers? Should I, what do I do? There's kind of this like fear, this like intense fear and obsession with, am I making the right choices for my potential because time is running out? And I just don't think there is any right and there's no wrong. Hopefully that relieves people a little bit. There are definitely choices you can make that can move you in one direction or another. But I don't think anything is really truly wasted. This the model that you've wasted your life because you didn't do X. Well, you did Y. I mean, you could have done X and then you would have not done Y, and then that would have gone wasted. So everything's a trade-off in life. I think people need to calm down a little bit, and live in the space of pure being more. I mean it. I'm not even trying to be funny. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The number of times we either at work or at home, even with my kids, that we have to just again level set. Everything is a trade off. So, which decision do we want to make? What's the best? What did you call it earlier? Chooser framework, something like that. I think you called it. Yeah, it's every single day. There's a trade off that has to happen, right?
Yes, there is.
Yeah. Scott, what are you excited about right now? I know you mentioned the book, you mentioned the course. Are these the things right now in front of you that you're most excited about? Are there other things you're looking forward to?
Yeah, well, I have this big project that is looking at the connection between technology, neuroscience, and
Mm,
culture, and yeah, I'm excited about that. And That's probably the thing I'm biggest excited about right now is that project. And I mean, shorter term for sure in this course, but that's only 8 weeks. But yeah,
yeah,
I really
yeah,
want
that's
to know. I
exciting.
really want to point and help people understand a little bit more about what humans could be moving forward. And I'm working on a really big project along those lines right now.
Oh, that's great. Um, one of the things that I know you've talked about in your research and in your writing and in the course that I took was around exploring your dark side. That getting in touch with the whole human is really important. Do we need to go through sort of trauma and adversity in order to grow into our best selves? Tell me a little bit about what your research around challenge tells us.
I wouldn't say trauma is necessary condition. I don't even really know what if we can't all agree on what objectively trauma means. Trauma is
Interesting.
it's a story that you tell yourself about an experience that happened to you. Maybe it was an uncomfortable experience. Maybe it was a really painful experience. For sure, I'm not denying that at all. But still, the trauma is the higher level story that we decided to label that experience as traumatic.
Mm,
I think that challenge, regardless of um, where it's coming from, can cause us to see the world in a different way that can have potential for growth. I'm not saying it's always better to have had the challenge than to not have had the challenge, but given that shit happens, right? The question is, what can we do, given that has happened, to live a life of greater connection, of learning from this situation, and maybe putting it into our creativity, maybe um, deepening our gratitude for being alive. Um, there are a lot of sorry, excuse me, a lot of really uncomfortable, shitty things that have happened to me that have really caused me to be darn grateful for the life I
Hmm.
have right now. And am I grateful those things happen to me? And at a certain level, yes. But would I have chosen it not to happen? Probably a yes as well. Life is about yes and not about either or.
Yeah, you've done a lot of improv in your life, as I recall. Speaking of yes and.
Yes, I co-hosted the Second City Improv podcast
Yeah, that's awesome.
last year. Yeah.
Do you, yeah. I've just a couple more questions, Scott. I know you got to get running, and as always,
Thanks, buddy.
I'm finding talking to you enlightening and hearing what you have to say. I
Thanks,
find
Kyler.
often folks who are working through, I shouldn't say it that way. Let me rephrase that. I find often folks who have financial success, especially because they've worked hard and saved a lot rather than some sort of windfall, they often have done that because they've had a scarcity mentality or scarcity in their early life that's caused them to then collect and hold on to wealth. Um, does scarcity psychology affect someone's ability to grow? Does it become a ceiling for growth? How do folks deal with that as they sort of go through their life?
I think there are certain givens of human existence that um, are absolutely essential for growth. I think uh, experiencing loss, experiencing deprivation is are these are the things that motivate us. It
Hmm.
but there is a distinction that Maslow makes between being motivated by your deprivations and being motivated by pure being itself. And so I do think it's valuable in distinguishing between these different types of motivations. But I think having scarcity um, can in some ways, like David Epstein style, narrow things in a great way for you. You start to only focus on the things that matter the most, as opposed to being scatterbrained everywhere. So
Hmm.
things, life is not always what you expect it to be.
Yeah, I think that's the case for everyone.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, one of the things we like to talk to folks who become clients about is the fact that financially they've won the game and it's time to focus on something else in their life.
Yeah.
Do you see this in your courses, The Science of Living Well? Folks who've come and have financially won the game, but are missing something else in their life.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of advice? Yeah, okay. So, what kind of advice do you give those folks? What do they optimize next? Or if that's the wrong way to put it, what should they be thinking about?
I mean, yeah, I've had like clients who are billionaires and they're just, or at least millionaires, and they sort of eh, felt like they're floating in space.
Hmm.
There's just nothing to tether themselves to because they feel like they could have anything. And what I found helpful in working with some of these individuals um is for once in their life like committing to one goalpost and tying themselves to it. And that's what a lot of them need. You know? And I mean, more with greater money, I don't need to tell you this, it doesn't necessarily bring you greater self-actualization, right? And self-actualization often requires you um, picking the port that you want to sail to and putting all of your resources and all of your energy into that. I think a lot of these individuals feel a lot better in their lives when they're not scattering their money across 50 different investment areas, but they've decided to pick that main cause or that main thing that really gets them excited and going all in.
Yeah. Well, hey, Scott, I really appreciate you taking some time with me. I've told you this before,
Oh,
but the time we spent together during COVID through the course and in the
um,
session you and I did one on one had a really profound impact on me. And
uh-huh.
today I just really appreciated hearing your voice again and hearing what you had to say on these different things. If folks want to hear more about what you're working on, your research, your course, where's the best place for them to go?
Hey, so if you want to follow me more, you can go to scottbarrykaufman.com. I have the Living Well courses featured prominently there right now, but I also have there the archive of over 500 episodes from over a decade of the Psychology Podcast. I have nicely archived. I've archived it all recently. I have resources, articles I've written for free. I try to offer, and then my Substack. I've been writing a lot on my Substack, Beautiful Minds Substack. I've been very active, and I try to look. I appreciate people who subscribe and pay for that, but I also offer it for free. So I don't put pressure on anyone. I don't put my content behind a paywall. And yeah, so please check out Beautiful Minds, the Substack. Yeah,
Awesome. So I'll finish up by just saying if folks have gotten this far in the conversation, they've obviously gotten something out of our conversation and they should for
sure.
sure go and check out your material. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed to North Road yet. And you can get our newsletter off our website, North Road IC. That's the letters IC.com. Once again, Scott, I really appreciate your time. I know you are super busy and doing a million things, and it's lovely to see you. I'm wishing you the best and the most fortunate life moving forward, and I look forward to someday connecting again.
I'd love that. All the best to you too, Carrie.
Thanks very much.
Stay in touch, buddy.